what you see, like a battery. I'm staying charged on my feet, I'm like a factory. Dropping lines like an assembly. I'm staying on point, it's my strategy. Feel like they're tracking me.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to ZukaTube. Now, I was really excited to hurry up and get home. I had to work today, and I wanted to review the M.O.D.O.K series that's on Hulu right now. Now, this is from Marvel. I don't know why it's not on Disney Plus, but it's on Hulu right now, and it's a 10-episode series. So let's put that up on the screen here. It's about 23 to 25 minutes a piece. And I don't know. I got a lot to talk about with this episode. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit of origin stuff. I'm going to talk a bit about the general summary of the episode. You know, I'll get into all that. Throughout it, I'll get into my likes and dislikes and all that. And then I'll tuck the spoilers in at the end. That way, you know, you don't have to get hit with the spoilers if you're still planning on watching this show, or if, you know what I mean, you don't necessarily want to watch it, but you still don't want spoilers or whatever, you know what I mean? So I'll play the trailer as well for you guys. I'll do the trailer first. That way we can get that out of the way, and you can kind of get a gist of this show. Let's pop this up on the screen for you guys. Boom.
They called me Big Head.
One day, that big, beautiful, womb-wrecking head of yours is going to change the world.
Kid with a big head.
Time to change the world by bringing it to its knees. Attack! The future is M.O.D.O.K.
M.O.D.O.K.
And do you know what M.O.D.O.K stands for?
Mental organism designed only
For killing. For killing.
Where does he go at night? Nobody knows.
Oh, no one took the cans out? Come on! Ah, shit.
Like your neighbors wouldn't notice that.
We have to tell the kids about us.
Kids, she's lost her mind. You have to stop her.
M.O.D.O.K, what are you telling the kids?
I'm comforting them. And if you tell her I said any of this, this will be one of the many divorces where it is the kid's fault.
Dang, it is the
I'm Wonder Man.
Bending Avenger, underwear model, and lover of your wife.
This is an outrage! Ah! I shall reclaim my family! I shall reclaim my destiny! Iron Man!
Cheap shot to the back of the head, I know. But I was actually aiming for literally any other part of your body.
Yeah! Woohoo! I'm not listening when you say...
Toot, right? Toot.
Am I good businessman?
Yeah, about that. We're bankrupt.
What?
I'm sorry. I thought this coffee was for everyone.
Dun, dun. Watch only on Hulu. Yeah, so that was the trailer right there, and that's pretty much the gist generally of the show all the way through. I mean, it's just a lot of Patton Oswalt just badgering the whole time, you know, making jokes and, you know, being like an exaggerated version of M.O.D.O.K the whole time. And there's a lot of funny aspects to it because it's kind of like they try to play it in like a almost Family Guy mixed with like a Robot Chicken kind of esque show. But first off, let me give you a little bit of origin story stuff for M.O.D.O.K, because in this show, you'll notice in the trailer there, they have him just as like a kid with a big head and I guess just odd mental abilities, which is not at all the origin story, unless like the new comic book is doing that. You know, I know this is following a lot of stuff in relation to the newer comics, which obviously nobody really cares too much about, but let's get into the origin right now. He had first appeared in like the 1960s, like 1967. Now, what is it? It was Tales of Suspense number 93. Now, basically what happens in this issue is Captain America goes underwater to the AIM base, which is Advanced Idea Mechanics, to search for Agent 13, missing S.H.I.E.L.D. operative, gets captured by scientists that work for M.O.D.O.K, right? And Captain America and Agent 13 still manage to escape and find out about M.O.D.O.K. You know, M.O.D.O.K was a guinea pig for AIM. He was a scientist, and it kind of gave him extreme mutated mental powers. And eventually, in that issue and stuff, Captain America and Agent 13, they get recaptured. They defeat M.O.D.O.K and his scientists, but basically the origin for him is that he was a scientist named George Tarleton, I believe that's how you say it. He was experimented on by like other scientists at the facility. I guess they just decided to take one of their own and experiment on him, kind of deal. And he mutated into M.O.D.O.K, the mobile organism designed only for killing. Basically an advanced supercomputer with brain powers. He took revenge, killed a lot of the scientists, kind of enslaved the rest, and took over the AIM facility, right? And just kind of went on a continued set path for destruction, and definitely had his sights for Captain America a lot of the time. Now, this show was released May 21st, right? It's 10 episodes, like I was saying before. Patton Oswalt is M.O.D.O.K. There's a couple other appearances. Ben Schwartz from Parks and Rec is the son Lou. John Hamm appears barely as Iron Man here and there. You see Nathan Fillion as Wonder Man. And there's a couple other guests, like Whoopi Goldberg is in there at some point and stuff like that. I mean, you not like these people are literally in there, but their voices, Now, basically, the summary that they have stated for the show is that it centers around an egomaniacal supervillain with a really big head and a really little body who struggles to maintain control of his evil organization and his demanding family. Now, you see that part, the demanding family part? That's a major focus of this show. It's kind of him and his troubles with his family, and then him and the troubles, back with this organization, right? Apparently, like I said, this one, they just give you an origin. They don't give you any origin, really. They just show a flashback of him as a little kid with a big head. They really don't go into any of that. They really don't do specifics in this show to that degree. Everything is just kind of like minor Easter eggs or references to Marvel material, which to some people, especially with how much they've been going in depth with a lot of Marvel shows, to not only give you Easter eggs, but to kind of dive in to an adapted version of a story or to an actual story that's known in the comics. This doesn't really do that at all. Doesn't really focus on any of that stuff. They give you a couple funny kind of perspectives on certain villains and things like that. And you see a decent amount of like jokes about like Wonder Man and stuff because he's a character for a few episodes that's involved. But basically, like, it's a lot of him and his family kind of going through the ropes, basically in the beginning of this show. His wife, who apparently is a self-help influencer, so not any interesting reason to care about this character. She basically wants a divorce, and it's a big problem. He's trying to kind of win her back, fix the family, but he's obviously a crazy ego head maniac that's hell-bent on destruction and does everything selfishly and kind of dismisses everybody else's existence when it comes to whatever he kind of has on his mind or decides to do. M.O.D.O.K kind of bankrupts his company and then is trying to fix things. He has a second hand named Monica, and she kind of wants to take over and considers him a failure, has a lot of spite towards him. The wife is very tired of his obsessions. A company called Grumble invests in the company, and they proceed to take over and throw obstacles his way the whole time. Because there's a bigger picture about that. There's an enemy within this Grumble company that is being kind of pitched as the potential villain of the story. Granted, it's not necessarily the villain of the story. There are other aspects of what you would consider the villain of the story in this show. But a major thing that happens in this at one point is that he kind of time travels with his wife to kind of fix some things by going back in the past and getting to do things they didn't get to do and trying to re-jog up some of them sparks and some of them old memories, And they end up breaking their time travel machine, and they kind of get stuck back in time, and they have to kind of watch themselves, get older and everything like that. And it gives them a moment to kind of bond with each other. And then when it gets back to the present day time and they're about to time travel again, these people jump out you know, the wife and M.O.D.O.K jump out and they grab the time machine, they bust it, and at that point they kind of fade out and disappear into existence because of, I guess, the whole time travel thing of, you know, getting rid of a version of yourself and all that kind of stuff. But what's weird about that is that when this happens and all that with the time travel issues, they go through a time portal, and so does a younger version of M.O.D.O.K. Now, that's a huge flaw to me in this story immediately, because how are you going to have a situation where they get to watch themselves grow older back to present day again because they got trapped in the past? And then as soon as they break the time machine, the ones that got stuck in the past, that version of them disappears into thin air and fades away into no existence. But then how does the younger version of M.O.D.O.K go through a time portal with them as well and exist, and then the present day versions of them don't disappear and all that kind of stuff? And it gets a little confusing in that. I feel like that's kind of a little bit of a hole in the whole situation that they don't really explain. And I guess maybe it's because of the fact that, no, I mean, it's a tough one. I really want to know everybody's opinion on that, because that's a really confusing whole avenue of the show, right? You know, basically the character Monica, that's like the second hand, she's kind of better at everything apparently, so they bring her on as the top scientist while he's gone. The Grumble Company really kind of just takes over and puts all these weird restrictions on everything that he has to do and all these hoops to jump through. And there's a lot of comedy all throughout it with each character. They don't really dive into each character specifically, or really, besides his kids. He's got two kids. The one kid, the daughter looks like him and the son doesn't, you know, and the daughter has mental abilities and all that. Son's just like a normal kid, and the son's annoying. And I like Ben Schwartz, but the son is very annoying throughout this show. And I also have to say overall, like, Patton Oswalt, he is really, really annoying as well after a while, because he is so engulfed in every scene throughout the show. Like, it's just nonstop. It becomes like an intense badgering at some points, because it's just, if you really like him, it should be okay. But if you're like so about him and his stuff in general, not to mention the voice he has as this character, it does get very annoying. And granted, it's 10 short episodes, but I mean, it's 100% of almost every single scene is him and him talking. So that's a big thing. You see his family right here. Obviously, you could see where his wife and son look very similar, but the daughter looks more like him. You know, and they don't really go into explaining any of how that happens or anything like that. They just kind of give these characters a little bit of a general emptiness to where they're used for comedy routines and stuff, but nothing really important. They don't really dive deep for any character at all. The one character that I do enjoy in this show for a little bit is this Super Adaptoid, which is kind of like his household utility that can kind of change into different things. He could become a toaster or a car or whatever, you know. That's pretty interesting, pretty funny overall when that happens. Then there's a lot of other little things that happen throughout that are very reminiscent of that Robot Chicken style of comedy. That's fairly enjoyable. But I want to get right into the spoilers for this, but I'm going to give you my general rating for this show. Now that I finished it all the way through and everything, I'm going to give this show a solid 6 out of 10. Like, it's so, man. It's not entertaining. Like, some parts are like, they're trying, but it's not enough to grab me story-wise to keep me involved in the interest in the other characters that they will not dive into. And at the same time, it's just the comedy aspect is like, obviously they're trying to push for, like I said, that Family Guy and Robot Chicken kind of, you know, feel, but it just doesn't deliver any bit close to even Robot Chicken in my eyes, because Robot Chicken has some pretty funny stuff sometimes and a lot of like so stuff, but I think overall this show is just a little bit even under that at points. Now, let's dive right into the spoilers here. Woo! Spoilers. Such spoiling. So there's that. Let's get into the spoilers now. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of more stuff from the summary of what's happening in some of this show now, because some of it is kind of ridiculous. The younger past version of what the hell? That popped up on the screen. The younger past version of M.O.D.O.K tries to kill him and his family, and he kind of gets killed, or does he? Because basically he doesn't. He comes back and everything like that. And I didn't know what they were going to do with that, because they don't really show if he ever dies or anything, or if he disappears because of whatever time issue with the multiverse stuff. And I don't know, man. It's weird, right? Then the kind of Grumble company is really operated by Hexus, a living corporation that apparently enslaves planets. And they kind of stress and hint that that's the main villain, but then they don't, because at the same time, they're kind of just the whole time hinting that young M.O.D.O.K is going to be the villain. But I guess in a sense, you know, M.O.D.O.K is just the villain overall. Everything he does, it's his fault. He sucks. Everybody, like, especially his wife and Monica, are, like, apparently so much better than him at a lot of things. And then later on, they finally, like, show Monica being a little bit of a shittier person, a little more reminiscent of M.O.D.O.K's personality as well, which is good, you know, because otherwise I would have really been, like, completely careless about that character. But M.O.D.O.K at one point tries to save his son, and he has a robot son at a point, because they go into a little thing where young M.O.D.O.K clone makes a bunch of robots of them, and he kind of has a process of elimination where they have to kill the robots, but they're also among the robots, and everybody believes they're not a robot. That whole big deal. So M.O.D.O.K tries to save his son and robot son at his bar mitzvah, and at the end he kind of fails, and then he agrees to dance with the kids, and that kind of cheers them up, because, you know, they just wanted to spend time with their dad at that bar mitzvah, right? There's a point as well where young M.O.D.O.K comes back to lose party and tries to kill them, and kind of shows M.O.D.O.K a multiverse of M.O.D.O.K's different futures and different scenarios of what could happen with his life. And that basically leads to the decision of young M.O.D.O.K being let to kill his family, and kind of it fast forwards to him to the present day M.O.D.O.K becoming eventually like the emperor of his own magic utopia thing, where, you know, he holds young M.O.D.O.K captive and tries to use his crystals to go back in time until he finally, like, dies. But then when that happens, they don't really... it's weird, because, again, like, if they went back in time and the young M.O.D.O.K went through the time portal, do the present day versions of them not exist? Because then he does not ever make the moves, and the past version of them is gone to make the moves to even have their children, for them to be a couple, for all of these things to happen. So that's like the major plot hole that drives me insane on this damn show. And aside from that, obviously the bad comedy throughout it. I mean, there's a couple little things here and there that you'll crack up on, but it's really nothing of any weight whatsoever. Like, honestly. And like I said, I'm going to give this show a 6 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think about this, because this is like a so-so kind of program, and I kind of get the feeling that that's why it's on Hulu and it didn't make it to Disney+. But definitely let me know your opinions. I'm going to go, and probably the next review I'm going to do is Army of the Dead, because that's out right now, so I'm very excited for that. So tune in. I'll have that video up probably either tonight or tomorrow. But ZukaTube out. Peace.
What it do, what you see, like a battery. I'm staying charged on my feet, I'm like a factory. Dropping lines like an assembly. I'm staying on point, it's my strategy. Feel like they tracking me. Yo, let me get on one. Nah, go get your tracks up. Homie, can I steal some? Homie, you can't stack up. My brother, can you shout me? You're barking up the wrong tree. My dog, why do you doubt me? Cause you can't do shit without me.
Real like the radio and never play it, but that's cool. The enemy's supposed to hate it.